KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger, a public affairs program featuring stories from all over the Central Valley with Sevag Tateosian, 90.7 KFSR.
I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Welcome to the Central Valley Ledger. We're recording out of the beautiful downtown Fresno studios of the Community Media Access Collaborative, Fresno, Clovis. It's actually the old Fresno B building. And the reason I say that with a smile is because next to us is the Fresno B's Jim Boren. Welcome to the program, sir.
Oh, thank you for having me here. It's like homecoming for me here at the newspaper, at the building I started with some 48 years ago. And it's incredible memories. We were up on the fourth floor, and not too long ago I walked through that newsroom and found where my old desk would have been, and it was pretty cool. We saw a lot of great stuff here.
I want to talk to you about your career, but first about you, because we've read your articles. Those of us who have been subscribers of the Bee or followed the Bee know your writing. What about you, though? What tell us about Jim Boren? Were you born in Fresno?
I'm a native. Yes, I'm born in Fresno. I grew up here. It's an incredible experience to think that that one day this Fresno kid could be the editor of his hometown newspaper. So I grew up, went to the local schools, Holland Elementary School, which is at Fresno and Gettysburg. That was the farthest north school. Where Fashion Fair is, it was a drive-in theater and a fig orchard. That's where we played in those days. Cary Park. It was just a great experience. Went to Tioga Junior High, which is now middle school, and Hoover High School.
Wow.
So, and then of course Fresno City College and then Fresno State. So I'm a local kid completely. I say kid. After 48 years in journalism, I kind of use that as a reference, but I know that it's been a long time, and it's been a wonderful life, and I've got to do things and see things that I ordinarily wouldn't have done.
I mean, we could take this interview in so many different directions. Just the fact that you've been reporting for 48 years or been involved in a newspaper for 48 years, you've seen so much in that 48-year career. I mean, this is what you did daily.
Yes.
Why did you decide you wanted to get into news?
When I was in high school at Hoover, I wasn't really sure where I was headed, and I had an excellent instructor, Mr. Karsten, who was an English teacher, and said, hey, we've got the school newspaper, and you like sports, and how about writing some sports stories for it? And I started doing that. I got hooked. And not too long later, I got a job at the Bee part-time writing sports, and then it went from one thing to another. So when I went to City College in Fresno State, I needed to declare a major. I had no idea, so I did journalism, and it's been great for me. And I can't imagine me doing anything else. And with some trepidation, I'm retiring in January. About the middle of the month, and I'm looking forward to that after a very long career. But also, this is what I've done every day since I was 19.
And for one company. I mean,
with
for
one
company.
So when it's been your life's work since you were 19 years old, what else? I mean, I always joke, and maybe it's true. I don't know what else I would do. I don't know if I have any transferable skills, but it'll be fun. And on a more serious vein, I'm retiring, but I'm going to do some other things. I'm going to volunteer in the community. I'm going to be involved in nonprofits. I'm going to look for opportunities to help people and use some of my communication skills and media skills to help groups and organizations and people, and I hope to be able to do that. And I've had a few offers, and we'll see where that goes. There's a couple that might work out very nicely, and I would love to do that. So I'm looking forward to it. But as I say, after doing something for so long since you were 19 years old. I'm a little nervous about it. I'm a little nervous.
You know, I saw a picture recently of you and Gail Marshall.
Sure.
And you two were behind in the back of a VW, looks like, and you were typing. Tell us about that picture. And because today, I don't think we would see that.
You probably wouldn't. This was in 1976. We were on the scene at the Chowchilla school bus kidnapping. Another colleague, Joe Rosado, who I think you know, Joe Rosado Sr., and I only say that because Joe Rosado Jr., his son, has turned out to be a great journalist, also in that vein of the Rosado journalism tree. But that was Joe's Volkswagen bus, and we used that as an office. And so in that picture, you'll see me with my old Royal typewriter and Gail, and we're typing stories. And then we had Google there, which was a phone book. And so it was interesting, and that was, of course, a huge story. 26 children and their bus driver kidnapped, vanished for days, a couple days, and finally shown up in a rock quarry up in the Bay Area. And it was an incredible story. Media from all over the world had come there into this small town. I think there were only like 20 long distance lines. You had to fight to call out on the long distance line. If you got a long distance line, you would pay somebody to hold that phone for you because you didn't want to give it up because you couldn't get a long distance line out. There were only a certain number of trunks into that thing in those old days. Now we'd all have our cell phones, and it wouldn't be an issue, and we'd be sending wirelessly through a computer. But so yeah, that's a classic picture. That is something that's really special. That was in that tragedy. It was a big story that I had covered.
You've covered many stories, but some have got to stick out. Some have got to touch you in your heart, or some have got to keep you thinking or thinking about it periodically. What are those stories? What are the stories over your career that you can't seem to forget?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had a lot of opportunities. I was a national political reporter, so I covered presidential campaigns. I've been to 6 national conventions. I covered national campaigns across the country in the campaign plane with the candidates, and that was extraordinary. A lot of local stories that were very important. This child molest ring and alleged child molest ring in Kern County that turned out not to be that, and we wrote some stories that brought some truth to that. Over the years, we've taken on powerful interests. We've done a lot of public service journalism, and I say we because some of those stories were mine, but you do it with a team. Your team here helps you put this show together and other things that you do. Nobody in our business does anything alone. Mm-hmm. And so these are incredible opportunities. I mean, like I said, this kid that grew up on Mariposa Street, 1 block from Cary Park, is covering governors and presidents, and national figures and celebrities, and this business, and it's a cliche, but it's also true that it's the ultimate backstage pass. Mm-hmm. And for 48 years, I've had the opportunity to cover local, state, and national stories that are very important. Covering the farm worker movement and Cesar Chavez, being on the lines when he's out with picketing and strikes, and some of the folks that came to support him, Daniel Ellsberg and Dorothy Day, the great socialist worker, and Joan Baez, the folk singer, as well as others. I covered Pete Wilson's campaign for U.S. Senate and then for governor. So it was just there's been a lot, and you get to see things in a way that you don't ordinarily do that, and that part I'm going to miss. I mean, I'm going to miss that, being able to, with a phone call.
Yeah, you were front lines.
Yeah.
I mean, in essence, you were front lines to whatever's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, in the city, in the county, in the state, and nationally. I mean, you were there when stuff
Right.
was happening,
Right.
so you got a first hand look at all
Yeah.
that stuff happening.
So, you know, I mean, as a reporter, as a journalist, as a political reporter, and then, you know, as the editorial page editor, and now as executive editor of the newspaper, you know, I had a certain amount of access because of that. After January 19th, nobody will take my call, I'm sure.
I don't know about that. knowing your history in this city, I don't know if I buy that, but we'll have to see. And I'll have to bring you back to talk about that some.
Yeah,
some
no,
more.
I would love to. Thank you for what you do with your show, really shining lights on important community issues. I think that is so important, especially in this time of fragmented media.
And there's so much out there that could be getting coverage, and unfortunately, we don't have enough time to cover it all. But all stories are important.
Right.
Tell us about how you pick stories. I mean, you got, I'm sure, emails, and before that, phone calls, and before that, letters saying, please cover this story. How do you pick which story to cover and what not?
Well, I mean, to start with, there's just the obvious stories, you know, the crime stories, the important stories at City Hall and at the school board and other kinds of things, but also stories that are a reflection of our community. And those stories, as we say now, we call it, you know, does a story have an audience? Will somebody read it? You don't want to write stories that no one reads. And so we want the story to have audience. We want it to have public service. I mean, you know, I think we've had some really great public service stories in our community in the last, recently, going to last year's project on the slumlords in Fresno, that not only it changed people's lives, it changed laws, it gave people access that didn't have power, and we changed laws at City Hall, and we made lives better for people that didn't have that power. We've most recently had our human trafficking series by Rory Appleton and Alex Appleton, that talked about these victims that virtually every 16-year-old girl has been contacted in our community by somebody that's, you know, trying to traffic her through social media and others, and they pick vulnerable people, and you know, and this is what the cops say. And Rory embedded himself with the cops and spoke to victims, and Alex did video and other stuff. So a really great and powerful thing. So we not only told that story, we told what was going on in our community, and gave light to that. But we also then came up with solutions in that solutions piece that we just had run most recently. You know, the other pieces, there are sex education series. We pulled out a bound volume. I was involved in it 25 some years ago, where the San Joaquin Valley had the highest teen pregnancy rate in the nation.
Yeah.
Still do.
Wow.
And so nothing has really changed. While teen pregnancy has gone down, you know, across the board, we're still among the highest for a lot of reasons, and education is the important part of it. And so what we wanted to do with that particular piece is to give voice to the problem, offer solutions from experts and from the students themselves, and in a very powerful way that we engaged teens through listening stations and other kinds of outreach that usually isn't done in journalism. But we really used the young people to tell those stories and figure out why, what was going on. So I'm very proud of those kinds of public service journalism. I'm proud of the great stories that we tell every day. We've never been read by more people in the history of the newspaper.
Wow.
With print and our digital reach. We have an incredible social media presence, almost 80,000 followers on Twitter, 29,000 Facebook likes. So we have still have a very big voice, while, people, saying that the newspaper is gone or it's a passé. It's not true. We have a bigger voice than we ever had, but we have to be smart about it because there's a real challenge right now in the business part of the newspaper. The print advertising has other options, including digital, and we've got to meet those needs, and we are, as we try to reduce the legacy costs of the print product and really put our focus ultimately into digital journalism.
And I want to talk about that. I think you went exactly where I'm going. I'm a fan of the hard copy. I love the feel of the paper.
I do too.
But not too long ago, I subscribed digitally, and I didn't think I was going to like it at first. But you all do something. You email us every morning, and we can go on to the email, look at the paper as it would look if I was holding it. I love that. And
That's
I didn't
the
know
digital
you did,
version, yes.
I didn't know you did that, but when I subscribed, I love that version of it.
And there's even more to that because we also then add some extra pages digitally that isn't even in the newspaper. So you can get later scores and you can get a deeper opinion and features and other kinds of content. So we're doing our best to meet our readers' needs. I know it's a challenge out there for everyone, and this is a challenge facing all media. Radio, TV, and other kinds. It's not just in the print. And we're going to figure it out. But at the heart of what we do is great storytelling. Tell good stories, give people access. On our editorial page, we're the only media that allow our critics to write a letter to the editor. And it's like Best Buy or some other thing saying, putting something on the front page of their store saying that your TV suck. We allow people to criticize us, and we give voice to that. They can do it in comments and also in comments on our section as well as to the letters. So, we've always been interactive with our letters to the editor before interactive was cool.
Talk about your advice to up-and-coming journalism majors, people who want to work in newspapers, because that industry, as you know, has changed significantly. Yes. But there are a lot of people out there still passionate about, doing the reporting, finding out what's going on and writing about it. So what is your advice to someone sitting back and kind of worried about the changes in the industry?
Well, what I tell them is the storytelling, the reporting will never change. The platform may change. The print product, we're now migrating to a digital product. But the stories, the photography, and now we do video in print that we never did before. So the storytelling there's even more opportunities. And we believe as strongly in that. So I think there's great opportunities. And I think as newspapers transition fully to digital, that's when they grow again. There's a huge future, and there's a future in digital journalism, and with traditional media. You can have blogs. There's a lot of various websites that people can do. In the old days, and harking back to the old days, we were the only ones that could afford a $45 million printing press.
Wow. That's impressive.
Today, everybody's got a printing press right on their desk, which, with their PC or their Mac, and they use it, and through social media and other things, everybody has a voice.
Do you think that one day the hard copy is going to go away completely and everything is going to focus on the digital? And if so, does that hurt you? Now, the reason I asked the question is I thought real hard about switching to the digital because the digital is a little cheaper than the actual hard copy of the newspaper. And the reason why is I didn't want to hurt you all at the B. Yeah. But are you happy, when someone does that transition?
Yeah, it's one, we think that's the future. Mm-hmm. Right now, the print product is an important part of our business model. So that, that has to be right up front. But I always think that there will be a print version of the Fresno Bee and other newspapers. who knows how many people will buy them, but I think there will be. It's sort of like, Kindle was going to kill books. And, so a lot of people write, read books on Kindle and other devices, their iPads or whatever, but we still sell a lot of books. So, there's room for all of those. Libraries are growing like they've never have before. It's the whole idea that television was going to kill radio. Well, it's just a better version or a different version of this, but radio still has its place. TV still has its place. TV has huge challenges now with, especially the networks, because you can stream and you can stream past the commercials. That upsets their business model. Talk about a disruption in the industry. That's huge. You can get on demand. You can get your favorite shows, and there's and I have many, and you can pick and choose now, and you can watch something at a certain time. I remember the day when you could only, if you missed a TV show, that was it. It's
you
gone.
had to watch at that time, or else you're not going to see it again.
Maybe come back and rerun some other time, but you're not going to see that. Now it's on demand, and you really haven't missed it, or you've recorded it, or depending on your cable or satellite dish, it's always there. So for the consumer, it's an incredible array of choices, but it comes at a cost for media. So we all have to figure that out. That's part of that whole free enterprise system. We have to adjust as a newspaper company, and we believe now that we are mostly a digital company, transitioning to that's where our future is going to be. And I think any business that gets disrupted, no matter what it is. Remember those old traditional brands that we had, and those stores, the Montgomery Wards and
the Woolworths
and all those. Somebody else came along, and say Walmart and Target may be riding high now, but maybe in 10 years or 15 years, something else come along. Maybe Amazon will displace all the bricks and mortars kind of thing, and then maybe there's something else will displace Amazon that is newer or better, or those kinds of things. So you have to be agile, and smart business people know that, and they do that. So it's a challenge in our business, but we think that we offer good storytelling, good newspaper, good content, both in online and in the print product. And I'm proud to say, in May, the Fresno Bee was judged the best newspaper in California in its circulation category. And this is the largest circulation category. That includes everything from 35,000 circulation newspapers to 150, and which is the majority of daily papers. And that was an incredible honor, but it also reflected the work of a great and dedicated staff. We've got incredible people that do a lot of work, even as we've become smaller. They're really doing great work.
We are running out of time, believe it or not,
on the
program. It flew by. We could easily talk to you for hours and hours and hours, but why is reading important? Why should we, I guess let me re-ask that question in a better way. Why should we care? I know people that don't read the news and don't read any news at all, and don't watch any news because they say, oh, I don't want to know all the negative stuff. But in your opinion, as someone who did this for 48 years, why should we care about the news?
I think that most studies show that the people who read the news participate in our democracy, get involved in community projects, get involved in the schools, get involved in their government. They're great volunteers. It's just one of those things. You don't have to do that, and there's many people that maybe not read the news that do all those things. But I think that's important. Plus, it allows you access every day to what's going on in your community. So important stuff. Where what's open, to what places to shop, and what the city council did, and how that tax bill may impact you. You know, is there crime in the neighborhood? That fire engine that you heard, you know, that was something going on over on First Street. So you find all those things out. It just seems to me that if you're more engaged, you know, you have a better and fuller life. You know, I don't know it any other way. So I know many people that don't, and they're happy as I am. Maybe they're even happier.
You know, sir, people are going to miss you. The people who have subscribed to the Bee for so long. You know, I have many friends that are longtime subscribers, and they know your name by heart. They know you know, Jim Boren. That's Jim Boren. So, you know, thank you for your 48 years.
Thank you.
And I think that we're still going to hear from you or hear about you next year when you retire.
Yeah, I'll be around. I'll be around. I'll be doing something, and maybe not in the newspaper business. But I will be involved in my community.
On that note, perfect way to end. Thank you so much for joining us this week.
Doug, thank you very much.
That's all for this edition of the Central Valley Ledger. Our guest this week has been Jim Boren with the Fresno Bee. It was kind of a homecoming for Jim. Here, we're recording out of the beautiful downtown Fresno studios of the CMAC Studios, which is the former Fresno Bee building. Thank you to our audience members listening to this broadcast on 90.7 FM KFSR Fresno, and to those watching on the CMAC channels, Comcast 93 and AT&T 99. We hope you enjoyed the program this week. Thank you also to our volunteer crew that make this production and every production possible. We couldn't do the program without you as well. That's all for this edition. Tune in next week to a new edition.
KFSR and CMAC present the Central Valley Ledger every Sunday morning at 11:30. For a complete program schedule, visit kfsr.org.